Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Thursday afternoon. It's currently 7 p.m. here in Koh Samui, Thailand. And we've had a very busy week. Actually, we've been discussing a lot about AI, but in my actual business. But as a masterclass for tonight, it's all about preparing for 2026. Because this is the year of the professional investor. We've got more taxes, we've got more legislation, we've got more laws coming in, and it's gonna get quite tight, and it feels a little bit heavy for us landlords. Um, but to be honest, as long as we are aware of what's happening, this is not about fear; it's about prep. Um, then those landlords will definitely come out on top. Because, like I said, we've got a lot coming our way, and this presentation is just going to break down what we're expecting to see um, over 2026. So I'll share my screen now so you can see. So it's about preparing as landlords in 2026 with our strategy and survival guide to see where we are. And I thought that we'd just kick off with interest rates because, yes, a boring topic, but also important. And it's also one of the most scared topics that investors get about how's the interest rates doing? Can we still utilize it for property investing? The good news is the answer is yes, we can. They're not ultra low anymore, the interest rates. To understand 2026, we've got to understand 2020 when the base rate dropped down to 0.1%. But that wasn't because the system was healthy. It was because the system was broken. It was COVID-19, it was emergency money, and the Bank of England dropped it to 0.1%. It then shot up in 2023 to 5.25%. And now, after a steady 2025, we've actually seen a decrease, and now we're sitting at around about 3.75% in 2026. And just to give you a complete understanding of how lucky we are to have those rates, in Brazil, it's currently 15%, and in Turkey, it's 37%. So if the rates were that high in the UK, property investment would not work. BRR wouldn't work. Turnkeys wouldn't work because the finance would become too expensive and the rental income just simply would not cover it. So let's be thankful that we've got interest rates as a tick for going into this year for property investing. The second big thing is doomsday or opportunity. That's kind of what landlords are juggling in their brains, because we've got the Renters' Rights Act coming in on the 1st of May. And this is when some of the bigger changes are going to start coming in. The first one is Section 21. Is going to be abolished completely, which means that to evict a tenant, you now have to go through a different process, an existing process, but now moving towards Section 8. That's going to cause problems because there is a court backlog. But essentially, that's the only reason why we can now evict a tenant, because we're not allowed to do it without legal reason. And I'll go through some of the grounds in which we can evict tenants a bit later. We also move to periodic tenancies. So fixed term ASTs, short hold tenancy contracts, are illegal from the 1st of May, and all tenancies are rolling from that point. And that means that tenants can leave with just 2 months' notice. It used to be 4 months, by the way. And just as I'm not anti-agent or anti-letting agent, but I'm also trying to think who is the real winner in this Renters' Rights Act, because it's not tenants, it's not landlords, it is letting agents, because there's going to be more. This has come from the horse's mouth. I spoke to a letting agent last week, and they're looking forward to it because more periodic tenancies means more movement. More movement means more changeovers, and more changeover means more signing up tenants, and they will charge on average £250 plus VAT just to sign up a new tenant. So maybe they are the real winners of the Renters' Rights Act. We will see. So just to give you an idea, there are four grounds I've got here that you can regain a property to when you're evicting a tenant, because I know some landlords are going to have issues with this. Hopefully not, but they will. The first two, ground one and ground 1A, is about when a landlord either moves back into that property or is looking to sell the property. And the notice period for this is 4 months that you have to give to the tenant, but you cannot use this within the first 12 months of the tenancy. So they have to be there for 12 months, and then you can give the notice period for ground one or ground 1A. A big caveat: if you take that property back from that tenant and then you re-advertise it to rent out because you might want to increase the rent, or various other reasons, or you didn't sell, but you want to rent it out again, then you are facing potentially big problems. And I will tell you why. Because tenants, and I'll go back to that page in a second, but tenants are now financially incentivized by the government to report you if you take that property back from them, and then in the 12 months following that, if you relist it, even on Rightmove as just a listing to market again, they can report that to the powers to be, which will probably be the property redress scheme and the new database that we all need to sign up to. And if they find you as guilty, you can get a £7,000 fine. You can also get the tenant can also get 24 months rent repayment under a rent repayment order, so they can reclaim that back. That's where the financial incentive comes in. And you as a landlord, if it's deliberate misuse of Section 8, so you've said that you were going to sell it, but you're not going to sell it, you can get up to a £40,000 fine. Again, this is not me scaremongering, it's just me giving you the facts and being prepared of what could happen. You might also be thinking, well, how will they know? They're not going to check the Rightmove listing. Well, there's other ways. There's this PRS database, which I briefly mentioned, that we're all going to have to sign into soon. The council tax records will also show if a new tenant's moved in, and they can use that as evidence. And also management, letting agents, tenancy reports, they will also check. So just be careful, because not only is the government now watching what you're doing, tenants are also watching as well. There's also something called the Section 21 trap, which I want to run through here. If you imagine here, start of January 2026, let's say you've got a HMO property. It's a 4-bedroom HMO, all to students, but 3 of those rooms are rented, but 1 of them is vacant. Do not put a working professional in that room. The simple reason is that because we've only got now less than 4 months now. I've done this from the start of January. We're now into the beginning of Feb. But from the start of January, if a working professional was to take that vacant property, that vacant room in that HMO, you wouldn't have enough time, because you got to have 4 months before you actually serve them with a Section 21. So automatically they would roll onto the new rules, which would be Section 8. And therefore, they can stay. It's very hard to get them out at that point. So you've got a trap where you've tried to fill a void period, but now, because you've got a working professional in, when it actually gets to the next academic cycle in September, it now means that I've lost my train of thought. Sorry, can we mute the mic, Raphael? Yeah, thank you. It now means that if a working professional has taken that vacant room, you will then have a problem, because you won't be able to get a group of tenants from the 1st of September, because you're going to struggle to get them out. Whereas if you had a student in there to fill it, I'll take you back to these grounds. There is a ground 4A, which is important to mention when we're discussing, should I go for a student HMO or a working professional HMO? Well, there's a ground 4A, which does actually allow a bit more ease of getting that property back from a student, as long as it's within that contract, in order for you to get that property back for the next academic cycle. Whereas with working professionals, it doesn't apply to them. So just to keep you informed on that, on if you're choosing working pro or students. But then you've also got the flip side, which I'll go through a bit of a brief example later, that with students, their exams typically end in the June. So they'll start in the September 1st. Their exams will be around the June time. And because they're now allowed to give 2 months notice, it potentially means that once they finish their exams, they could give their notice and they could leave, because they're on periodic tenancies. So you'd have 2 months of voids periods. Not a lot we can do with that. If you compared that to working professionals, for example, they're more like they are hopefully more likely to stay, because they might have a job, they might have family, might have other commitments there. Whereas students kind of just would just get up and leave and just move to the next accommodation. So just something to consider when you're doing your deal analysis, to probably work out your voids, or your occupancy rather, on maybe like a 44-week contract, not a 52-week contract, and just see how much that affects it. And I'll take you through an example later. And the final ground is ground 8, which is serious arrears. And you can get notice. You can give a 4-week notice period, and the threshold is increased to 3 months arrears, up from 2 months. So they have to be in arrears for 3 months in order to serve this, not 2 anymore. Oh wow, I think we've got a full house today. That's brilliant. Um, I'd also just like to remind you, we've discussed this slide, but that the 30th of April 2026 is the deadline when you can serve a Section 21 notice, providing that they've lived in there for more than 4 months. And that's just kind of giving you the overview of the gap tenant risk. So don't fill it with a working professional just for that void period. It's better to just leave it and just get 3 out of 4 rooms, or try and find a student who would take that as well. So with all of these rules coming in for Renters' Rights Act, we're now facing the end of fixed term contracts. No more 12 months, no more 6 months anymore. We're all on rolling contracts from the 1st of May under usual AST agreements. That's why this not new strategy, it's been around for years, but that's why the let and forget, I'm calling it that because when you say social housing to an investor or a landlord, they get a bit worried. It's like, oh, I don't want to rent it to a council or a housing provider. You might have issues with certain tenant types, and I'll explain what tenant types are. But with let and forget, it literally is that. As long as you've got a 2 to 5 year contract in place, which is usual, where you're renting it to a council or a registered housing provider, the government's giving incentives. So they simply cannot keep up with demand to build more houses and keep up with the demand for particular tenant types, which are your elderly, the vulnerable, mental health difficulties, Alzheimer's, dementia, homelessness, people who've just come out of prison, asylum seekers, homeless. I think I've mentioned that. So it depends on the registered housing provider, but there are different tenant types. But with these long-term contracts, they're going to cover all of the voids, so you won't have any issues. If the property's empty, even if it's empty, they're going to give you the full rent, and it's market rent, by the way. And for HMOs, it can be even HMO rent. They're going to cover all of the maintenance and repairs. So that'll be inside the property. So that's not covering things like structural stuff. So if you imagine the roof, the boiler, any subsidence issues, that's typically falls on the shoulders of the landlord, which is normal, which is why a survey report is more important than ever. You'd always want to get a structurally safe house. But in terms of the day-to-day operational stuff, the social housing provider or council is usually 9 times out of 10, they will be responsible for it. The issues with getting a social housing contract is that they're never guaranteed. They go on demand. So if you're saying to a social housing provider, I found this great property, it needs a back to brick refurbishment, it's going to look like this, all shining, all dancing, amazing carpets and kitchen, but it's not ready yet. They will give you what's called a letter of intent, but that's not worth the paper it's written on. It means that they might take it on once that refurbishment's finished, but they might not need it if there's no demand in that area come 6 months down the line when you finish the refurbishment. There is, however, properties that we're working with registered social housing providers where we can already get long-term contracts in place. So that's something that you might want to speak to the James Property Club team about if you're interested in the social housing strategy. The other strategy that I think will work, and I hope works because my own portfolio is full of them, is student HMOs. Going back to the previous points, obviously this one is protected by a ground 4A for student HMOs, where you can get it back quicker or a bit easier. But obviously I did mention about the exam period versus working professionals. So you'd have to figure out what the demand is like. And I'm not ruling out working professionals or student HMOs. In fact, I just need to analyze what's going to happen within 12, 24 months after the Renters' Rights Act. It'd be good to have an analysis to see how it's affected my portfolio. And limited company investing, that's a clear and obvious one. I've got a slide a bit later. Unfortunately, property tax has been recently increased again. You may or may not know. Rachel Reeves did that in the November budget. Increased by 2%. So that's in your personal name. So the income tax threshold in your basic rate has gone up from 20% to 22% for property tax, 40 to 42% higher rate, and 45 to 47% additional rate. And finally, hybrid buy-to-lets. So that's where, by the way, we actually coined this term at the James Property University. Hybrid buy-to-let, if you're not aware, it's where you take a 2-bedroom property and you split those bedrooms into individual units. So you're renting it as a HMO style, but because you've only got 2 occupants and not 3 occupants, which is when a HMO kicks in, it means that you don't have to deal with all the headaches that a HMO brings with compliance, fire safety, refurb expenses, because it does get expensive when you start putting fire doors and pink plasterboards in. And you will still earn more than a traditional buy-to-let property as well, typically. You would have, for example, a property in Hull where I invest might achieve £500 per month up to a family. No bills, that's of the family would include that. But when we're looking at a hybrid buy-to-let for students, you might be able to charge £600 to £700 a month per room. So you're getting £1,200 to £1,300 a month, but your bills are included. But even with bills included, you would still be profiting more than you would a single buy-to-let. So that's why hybrids are also nice to have in 2026. And they're also usually low entries. We're talking like in Hull, 50, 60, 70, £80,000 entry point for the purchase price. So a nice one if you're just getting started. What doesn't work in 2026? That's probably more important. Vanilla buy to let in your own name, forget about it, especially if you're a higher rate taxpayer or even if you're a basic rate taxpayer. So if you're earning around about the 40 to £50,000 income mark and you're looking to build a portfolio, you're going to be tipped over within two or three properties. So you're probably just better off getting it from the beginning in a limited company. And also this one, I would say that the complex HMOs for that's more when you're looking at a beginner, I would always encourage you to get into HMOs as quickly as you can. And hybrid buy to let, by the way, is probably that perfect stepping stone into a HMO because it gives you the HMO style, but without all the compliance. But with bigger HMOs, as a beginner, you can only buy up to 6 bedrooms because lenders after that, if they gets to 7, they typically want to see at least 12 months of landlord experience. So if you're a beginner, that's probably where I would be. Hybrid buy-to-lets, social housing, let and forget, or up to your 6-bedroom HMOs. And the final two, again, don't just rely on capital appreciation and the gap tenants of not just filling a void just for the sake of it. You've now got to actually think whether you want to fill that with the right tenant. In terms of more tax hits, and I mentioned this on my Instagram recently about what the new scheme for making tax digital is coming in. So I'll get onto that. But as I mentioned, property income tax is going up. It's not affecting your self-assessment. So if you've got a self-employed business, that still remains at the 20, 40, 45%. But with property and dividend income tax, they would also, she's now Rachel Reeves has put it up by 2%. So in terms of the dividend, it's gone up from 8.75 to 10.75, and higher's gone up from 33.75 to 35.75. But to be honest, if you're being tax savvy, you shouldn't be paying the higher rate of dividend tax. You should be making sure that you've got a tax efficient salary, director salary of £12,570. And then you would take your dividends from your limited company up to the £50,000 threshold, and then try and put limited company expenses. The more allowable expenses that you use, obviously, the lower the corporation tax that you'll bring down for your business. So think personal. Don't think personal phone. Think business phones. Think business vans, vehicles, those types of things. Running costs. What can you put through to reduce it, and use that as your limited company expenditure to bring your tax down. And finally, the Making Tax Digital scheme, HMRC's new scheme to keep an eye on us, is coming in April 2026. That means if you're earning income from £50,000, that's total income. So that could be a combination of rental income and self-employment income. So pretty quickly, you should be hitting that 50k mark, which means you need to register for Making Tax Digital. Unfortunately, this is just the beginning. It's going to be phased. April 2027, that gets dropped to 30,000 a year. And then in April 2028, it's not on the presentation, but it drops down to £20,000 a year. So at some point, sooner or later, you will have to register for Making Tax Digital. And just to give you an idea of what that is, it means that we now have to start filing. It's going to be such a pain. It's like VAT. You're going to have to start filing your quarterly returns, essentially. So every quarter, you'll have a return to file, just like VAT, and your usual self-assessment at the end of the year, typically on the 31st of January. So you've got that one to do as well. Loophole, limited companies are exempt from Making Tax Digital because that is for corporation tax, which is an annual statement. So even more reason to push you into this corporate model, and then the government will probably put a big tax on that, like they did with the electrical vehicles. So we'll see what happens. I wanted to bring this up because I keep getting asked questions. I've got £50,000 or I've got X amount of money. What would you do? And this is actually more defined by more than just this question. It's not just based on the capital that you've got available, your lump sum. It's also based on the income stability. So if you've got an investor who has 50 to 100,000 pounds to invest in property, but you've only got that 50 to 100,000 pounds, and you might not be bringing in much more income for extra savings or to top up your capital, then that 50 to 100,000 pounds needs to go as far as you can. That might be through refinancing. It might be through a flip, or it might be through a high yielding turnkey property. But if you've got, for example, that's where the GDV is really important. If you're limited to a certain amount of capital and you need to refinance aggressively, that's where the GDV, the end value of that property after the refurb, is super important. Because if you don't get the GDV, then you're going to be leaving more money in, and then you're not going to be able to go again. You're going to be stuck. So that's why I always say that it's important to have multiple exit strategies on your options. If you don't quite get the end value on the refinance, because surveyors are a pain in the ass at the minute, we're seeing quite a lot of down valuations. Then you might think about the flip strategy, where you can recoup more of the money and plus the refurbishment cost that you've got in there as well. So something to consider when you're looking at your options. Whereas comparing that to, say, an investor who might have, again, similar to maybe have £200,000 to invest, but they've got that fortunate ability of being able to top up 50k every quarter. Then at that point, the GDV might not be as important to them. We've got one investor working with us now. His strategy is to buy properties cash towards the lower end, towards the 50 to £100,000 purchase prices. He's refurbishing them to add value straight away, but he's not looking to recycle on from after that 6 month period. So he's not too bothered about what the GDV looks like. He's more interested in what that GDV looks like in 2 to 5 years' time when we move him on to phase two. So phase one, buy all these cheap properties, refurbish them, get the rental income coming in. Phase two is when we look at his portfolio and we go, right, we've got these amount of houses, 10, 20 properties. We're now going to look to extract 75% of that portfolio out so we can go again in phase three and buy more properties. But like I said, that'll be 2 to 5 years down the line. So he's interested in what that property value is worth down there. So just something to consider. We also look at experience. So we're not just looking here. This, by the way, this is to build your own avatar on what and where you think that you need to be, and we can help you with this, of course, as well. But experience-wise, I mentioned earlier, if you're a newbie to HMOs, then 6 beds is your limit. Because lenders won't want to. They will offer, but the rates will be higher. So I don't want to say that they won't, but they just might not be as favourable as when you've got 12 months experience. You can open more doors. The time that kind of goes without saying. If you want to be kind of hands-on, then that's another thing to consider. Or if you want to be hands-off, then obviously you might need to pay for project management services, those types of things. Risk tolerance, if you want turnkeys, or if you want to go down the refurbishment route, and the exit strategy. So as I mentioned, we could either go for the buy, refurbish, refinance, we could go for flips, we could go for let and forget, those types of strategies. So it's more than just, I've got this amount of capital, what would you do? I've explained this previously just before, but essentially the avatar A is the income builder. So this is someone who's got high capital, low income. That might be someone who's looking to replace their salary if they've got a lot of capital and they want to replace it. So they might be going immediately down the turnkey HMO route, which is a good option to get that immediate cash flow. We've got a student. I don't know if Gemma's in here now, but she's looking to replace her salary for visa requirements. And we've got to do that by a certain deadline between the July-September. So we're looking at buying some turnkey HMOs that are achieving about £2,000 a month net, between £1,500 and £2,000 net. But this particular investor's in a good position because they've got capital available just to go straight in. Of course, they are still looking at the buy, refurbish, refinance model as well. And I will say that when you're looking to buy a property, you need to make sure that you would use finance at some point of the journey. So you're either going to use finance initially to buy the property to leverage the bank, putting in a 25% deposit, or we're going to refinance at the end. So buy cash, do it with refurbishment, and then refinance. So it's either going to refinance at the beginning or at the end, or both. If you use bridging finance, if for a BRI, that's also an option. But I'm talking about mortgages. So we've got a new product launching on the 28th of February. It's the James Property Fast Track. And essentially it's if some of you are new to James Property, we've got the ecosystem that can basically handle everything. So if we look at the James Property Club, that's where we've got our property marketplace. That's where we literally just put up investment deals on there. It's not a place for first-time buyers or home movers. It's a place for property investments, so for opportunities, HMOs, turnkeys, social housing, commercials, mixed use properties. Then after you've found a property, you might want to set up your limited company. And currently we can offer that for free with our partners, plus 3 months of accounting. They give you the 3 months of accounting simply because it might take you 3 months to find a property. So you can set up your limited company, get ready. 3 months is free. And then you're ready to put a property in there, and then you can start paying your accounting for that. And of course, we do all the deal analysis. My team, who are on the call watching with eager eyes right now, Kate and Christina, and Kate and Alex also, they are our team. And you get put into a private group chat on Telegram with our team as part of this fast track service that we're offering. And we're also able to give you pre-market access deals. So, for example, you probably won't have seen properties like, well, you'll see our marketplace, which is here, jamespropertyclub.io. You can filter by, for example, strategy, BRR, buy to let. But the properties that we don't list are, for example, properties like this one. So this has just gone to our fast track members and PhD students, offers over £50,000. They will get pre-market access to these properties. And that's something that we're now looking to offer as part of the fast track. So just to give you an idea that we don't post all the properties here. Then once you found a property that you like, your limited company set up, we also offer the solicitors and legals. You can then go on to the James Property Mortgages side of things. And that's where we've got brokers who specialize in bridging finance, commercial finance, development finance, HMO finance, buy-to-lets, etc. So that's where we can link you up with the finance to make sure you've got in either bridging finance or when we're looking to remortgage later on. And then we've got finally the James Property University. So this kind of envelopes everything. So that's the educational platform, the community, and that's obviously where you can join the fast track once we open on the 28th of February. So what I want you to do before we go into a little bit of a Q&A is just to give you a 2026 checklist, just to make sure that you are reviewing all your tenancies crossing the May 2026 deadline, because that's when Section 21 will stop and periodic tenancies will start to roll in. If you're self-managing, good luck. You're going to have to get some new contracts ready. If you're using a letting agent, it's outsourced. By the way, big advocate of using a letting agent. It's probably one of my best business decisions ever, because I used to self-manage when I had like 1 or 2 properties, because to be honest, the profit margins weren't great and I had to give away like 12.5% to a letting agent. So I did self-manage. It was good for education and for obviously learning about compliance, but it's a big minefield. It's changing, as we can see just from this presentation, how many changes are coming in just in 2026 for landlords. So the letting agent should be able to sort all that out for you. The other thing to do is to register for Making Tax digital software. So just to give you an idea, things like Xero, QuickBooks, or your own accountant's software, they may have their own. They're like the ones that you would need to sign up to report your tax returns back to. Or like I said, if you go to James Property Club and you go to the services tab, if you click this option here, free limited company, that'll go to our partners. And they are offering Making Tax digital as part of their service anyway. I think it's included. So that's another option if you're struggling, because that needs to be done before April this year. The next thing to do is to assess whether you've got properties in your personal name. Now that we know the new property tax increase is coming in. Actually, sorry, I stand corrected. I looked at this earlier. I fact-checked myself. The property tax for 2%, someone might want to also just double check this, but it's actually coming in April 2027. So I think there's a bit of a phased period. So it's not coming in straight away. So don't quote me on that, but I think we've got a bit of time. But again, it's nice to making sure that you're assessing your personal portfolio of properties and seeing if you can convert or transfer that into a limited company without paying your stamp duty or your capital gains tax. That's very difficult to do, especially since the new budget, because HMRC brought in new anti-tax avoidance guidelines to stop schemes just like this. And I know that a couple of other like property networking events. They've got in trouble for promoting this scheme. So we do have a service for that. It's called transferring a property rental business into a limited company. It's not guaranteed. You will need a minimum of 3 or 4 properties in your personal name to do this, because HMRC are challenging that if you've got less than 3 or 4 properties, is it really a genuine property business? Or is it a passive investment business? And you need to prove to them as one of the criteria is that it's a property business. So you need to be working more than 20 hours a week on your property business, maintenance, admin, tenants, etc. And that, as part of one of the criteria, might just prove to them that when you transfer your properties into a limited company via an LLP, limited liability partnership, then you might qualify without paying stamp duty or capital gains tax. But it's not guaranteed, so do obviously get help on that through those services. Actually, we've got Christina, I think we've got a live masterclass with that coming up soon. So that'll be good to join. I think it's next week or the week after. The other thing to do is to check your electrical installation condition report. That's a mouthful to say, but many of those actually, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because in 2021, I think this was introduced in April 2021, where it was like mandatory that landlords had to get an EICR certificate. They last for 5 years. So that means that a lot of them will be coming up for renewal in 2026. So just check that might need doing. And also your gas safety has to be every year, but EICRs every 5. And define your investor avatar before bidding on the next deal. So just have a think about what I was saying here about the capital that you've got, the income stability, can you top up, experience, time, risk tolerance, and exit strategy. And if you need help, as I mentioned, 28th of April, you can join our waiting list now on the James Property University website. It's now live. So this is the JP website. You can join the waiting list. And as I mentioned, the James Property Mortgages, this is our whole of market brokerage. We do pretty much everything you can see here that's been green ticked. Before I go into the Q&A, guys, I wanted to show you a bit of an analysis on void periods and how this could affect me personally with my student portfolio, but also you guys as well if you're looking to invest. So if I just pull up a very, very brief example. So ignore phase 1, ignore phase 2. We'll just go straight to phase 3. So currently, if we've got a HMO 4 bedrooms making £100 per person per week in students, and all of my contracts now are on 52-week contracts. But as I mentioned, students will start in September and their exams will be in the June. So now they're thinking, well, I don't need to live there July, August. So we'll have 8 weeks potentially of void periods if they all give their notice. And by the way, just to fact check as well, it doesn't matter if the tenants are on a room-only agreement or a joint tenancy agreement. Because in terms of ending the tenancy early, I actually originally thought that if you got them on a joint tenancy agreement, it would mean that all of the students would have to give their notice in order to break from the agreement, and therefore gives you more protection, because all of them would have to want to leave in order for them to break the contract, and therefore you wouldn't get the void periods of 2 months. Unfortunately, that's not true. Unfortunately, if the periodic tenants, as they go into periodic tenancies, even if one of them out of 4 wants to leave, the whole tenancy contract breaks, essentially. So it means that you would have to get an agreement with the other 3 as quickly as possible. But it's likely that if one of them leaves, there's either a bit of word of mouth, I'm leaving because we can do this and we can save a bit of money here. We can get you, don't pay the 2 months. Then they're all going to do it. So just to kind of put you in the worst case. So if we look at a 52-week contract down to 44 weeks and how this affects the total monthly rent, it'll go down from 1,800 to about 1,500. Doesn't seem like a lot, £300 a month. But across a portfolio of properties, it soon adds up. And if we even put that now on a 44-week contract, and as we all know, some students might only be there for 6 months because they've got a placement. Happens in Hull all the time. Well, not all the time, but with medical students in Hull, they split between Hull and York. I know because I went to Hull York Medical School, so I kind of know. And they used to commute. They used to spend 6 months in Hull and 6 months in York. So that might mean that halfway through, this bedroom number four thinks, oh, I don't want to be there anymore. And he might give a void period. So now we've got a big zero next to this. And look how it affects the net monthly rent. Goes down another £300 to £400. So we're down about £700 a month just from this. So that's why the let and forget social housing strategy has surged. And it's just the beginning. It's going to surge more after the 1st of May. That's why we're getting more inquiries, and that's why we're selling more social housing properties. One of them being actually this one. So if we go to our marketplace now, you can see this was actually one of my favorites because it was a good entry level. This one here, good property, £110,000. This is actually mortgageable as well. One of our JPU students is actually getting this one, and another PhD student is also bought this one. This was cash only, so they've bought this one up in Middlesbrough, 85,000, and they're getting a net annual of about 10,000. Just to note as well on social housing, they cover maintenance and repairs. They cover void periods. They cover all the bills. So there's no gas, electric, water, Wi-Fi, TV license, council tax. But there is sometimes a management cost just to make you aware, because sometimes the housing providers don't have their own management. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Completely depends. So just a cost that you might need to factor in. And if you are mortgaging it as well, that's another expense that you'd have to put on as your mortgage interest. But that's kind of the same across HMOs or any other. The big attraction here is that you're going to get the long-term fixed contract because it doesn't fall under the Renters' Rights Act. Social landlords and social housing is not affected yet by Renters' Rights Act because they're not AST agreements. They are what's called commercial agreements. So they don't fall under it. So that's the big attraction towards social housing. And finally, I've got to the end of my presentation. So just to summarize, guys, hopefully that was useful for the changes that are coming up this year. More than happy to answer any questions. We've got about 15, 20 minutes left. I can read them. Does anyone want to put the hand up and ask a question? Oh, come on, guys, you're not shy. Okay, we'll go through some of these.
Hi, James.
Hi, Emma.
Hi there. Can I just ask, sorry, so when the new rules come out sort of springtime this year, are we required to actually generate a new contract? We've got a long-term tenant in our property. They've been in there over 10 years and the contract has never been actually updated. Do we need to issue a new contract? Is that going to cause more trouble or is that the right thing to do? What is the best approach for that?
I mean, if they've been in for 10 years, they'll probably be on a rolling contract anyway, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the AST is actually getting scrapped. It's getting called something else, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. So, if for example if you're in a fixed term contract and they've just moved in, you've got a 12 months. My understanding is that will run out. So it might you're fixed if they moved in say November.
Yeah.
That might run until, for example, the October, and then they would go on to the new rules. But if you've got already a tenant on a periodic contract, I would suggest updating that contract to the
Yeah.
new contract that will come in for sure. But again, it's not going to affect much because they're on the rolling. So unless you wanted to maybe increase the rent, you could
Yeah,
maybe.
it was just an AST that was issued, like I say, at the start of the tenancy, and it's just rolled on really. We haven't made any changes to it. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
I would do it. Yeah, I would do it just to be safe for sure.
yeah, okay.
Have you got a letting agent or are you self-managing?
Self-managing at the moment.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I remember you was on a couple of weeks ago with the
Yes.
mortgage. Yeah.
We've
Any
well
any
the
any
one I was talking
progress?
about, the one I was talking no, no, no well, we sort of looked at the social housing thing, but
Yeah.
not social housing, the care sector thing. But to be honest,
Oh
the
yeah.
vibe I'm
Yeah.
getting from that is that actually market rate rent isn't really much higher, and actually
Right.
you get the guaranteed rent and the long-term lease and all of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
apart from that, I don't really see there's much gain. And actually, I think the property might actually take more of a bit of a punishing. Do you know what I mean? Might be
Yeah.
because it's heavy use.
Yeah. And by the way, with social housing and housing providers, you can negotiate the rent as well. You can actually, if they give you a rental figure, it's based
Yeah.
on what's called the LHA rates, local housing allowance rates.
Yes.
as you might know. I think you mentioned it last time. But you can negotiate them, not much, but you can get higher just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the one that I talked about the other week, that is actually the one side. It's a pair of semi-detached bungalows. So that was the one side. This one we've had for 10 years is the other side.
Right.
So I'm just
Right.
wondering what's the best thing to do with the existing tenant. And I think we're going to end up just putting the tenant in this one. But what we're going to try
Yeah,
and do, and I don't know if you can answer this question because the agent is a
I'll
little bit
try.
sketchy, is with the new rules coming in, if we put in the new tenant now on a new contract, um, as is at the moment, obviously it will change come spring, but if we put in a break clause, will that hold come spring, given that it's
Um,
been signed and agreed now? Reason we're saying that is if we put a tenant in 2 years' time, the older tenants that are in the bungalow next door decide to leave.
yeah,
Sounds terrible saying this, but they are very elderly. We
right.
may get that property back, and if we get both properties, then we may potentially decide to do the care route. So what I'm
Well,
trying to
look,
do
the
is
the new rules don't come in until the 1st of May, so you've got until the 30th of April to issue um a fixed term contract. But just bear in mind that they would move on to after the 1st of May, even with it being a fixed contract.
it would override it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you would still no, because I'm under the impression that even if you can get a fixed contract now, so for example, when I was scrambling around asking my student letting agent when the Renters' Rights Act was announced to get the tenants to re-sign the fixed contract so that they get all the way through to um, August the 30th, 2027.
Yeah,
But just remember that the rules of grounds for possession will change because they'll then be able to leave on. You'll have to get it as the Section 8, not Section 21.
yeah. I was just wondering if you could put in the break clause now because obviously if we put a tenant in before May,
Yeah,
um, the contract will be issued now and issue it with the break clause so that if we wanted the property back and say we put a break clause in for 2 years, if we wanted it back
yeah,
then, that the court may actually look at it quite favourably that it was actually in there at the start, it was agreed at the start, it was always
yeah,
there. I don't know.
yeah. It's
Hard, isn't
risky.
it?
Yeah, it's a hard one. That is a hard one because I don't know how the courts would assess that because they might take favour of this new Renters' Rights Act. But I know what you're saying. Like you've got the clause in there with that.
And they would have literally just signed it within
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah. I can
you
imagine
know.
quite a few investors doing
It's a
that.
bit like the tenant would be going in with their eyes open just as much as we're being transparent about it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
feel like you're a bit stuck. Never mind.
well, come back next week and tell me
I'll let you
how you
know.
get, or in a few weeks we'll find out.
I will. Thank
What
you.
happens.
Thanks for your
All right,
help.
cheers, Emma. Thanks for the
Thank you.
question. Thank you. I've got some questions. Oh, Nathan. Oh, we've got two hands raised. Nathan, you're first.
Hi, James. Yeah, just interested in this let and forget scheme that you were
Ah,
talking
Nathan.
about.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Could you put a close speaker to the mic if possible?
Oh, hello, can you hear me now?
I can. I'll lean in. I can hear you. Just go for it.
Hello? Hello?
Yep, yep. I can hear you.
Hiya, you got me. Yeah, so
Yep.
just interested in the let and forget social leases scheme you were talking about earlier. I've just coming to the end of my first buy-to-let renovation and just about to get it remortgaged. And yeah, I just thought that was a really good idea. And I wondered how you go about approaching the council to apply for a scheme like this.
So is the property tenanted or is it vacant?
Currently vacant, we're still not quite finished the refurb.
Not quite finished the refurb. Um, well, look, speaking to social housing providers is it's never guaranteed, and it's like pulling teeth because some of them, for some reason, even though they're getting funded from the rental income, because when people say guaranteed rent, it's guaranteed to the social housing provider, but not to you as the landlord. That's a key point. It comes from the DWP, Direct Worker Pensions from the government. into the social housing provider. But back to my point, it's like pulling teeth with them. It's very difficult. There's thousands of registered housing providers out there, and there's thousands of local and obviously hundreds of local councils. You could just start by Googling potentially your local area and housing providers, or contacting the council directly and seeing what they've got available. And because it's vacant, that's very positive, because it means that that's what they want. Like I said earlier, they won't do it if it's tenanted, because you don't know when you're going to get the tenant out, and eviction issues. So if it's ready to go, is it a HMO, or is it just a 2-bedroom house? Because if it's a HMO, it needs to comply with all the regulations like a normal HMO would as well.
Yeah, no, I understand that. No, it's a 3-bedroom terraced house.
Right. And would it be rented individual bedrooms or just as a whole house?
Well, I was imagining it would be as a whole house. So
Well, if it's not Article 4, convert it into a HMO. If that's a possibility, and if there's demand there, so you could approach the council if it's not Article 4, but they still might want to check things like fire doors. I don't know if you've put them on for a HMO.
oh, I
If
see.
not,
So this is only possible for the social leases if it's a HMO. It wouldn't just be.
no. You can rent it. You can rent it to a family. There might be a family in London and they need a social housing up in the north, and they will house a family. So I'm just saying that HMO rates are typically better because
Sure.
they're paying per room. So I'm just trying to get you extra income if that was a possibility. So if you could approach the council and say, look, I've got a 3-bedroom house, it could either be for a family or we could potentially convert it into a HMO. What's your spec and criteria for this? They will definitely be able to help on that. But I'm giving you the heads up. It is painful. It's not easy. My team who are listening to me now know what I'm talking about, but you've just got to keep at it and keep pestering them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Cheers, Nathan. Thank you for the question. Darren, we've got a call scheduled soon, I think. Good to see you.
Yes, we have. Good to see you. Long time coming.
Yeah, too long. How was India? Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. The
Good.
food was great.
Brilliant.
Can't
Can't knock it.
impact on the waistline, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. My question was, so I basically help manage a buy to let for my mum and dad. Um, so it's just to get an idea of what the situation is they want the tenants to basically, we want to evict the tenants. Now, with the new rules coming in, at the moment they're in arrears, but it's not the full. It's like essentially what's happened is we let it out through an agent, and they're being housed via the council. So it's sort of like
Right.
council housing, where we were supposed to receive X of the rent. A part of it hasn't been received, and that's been going on for a few months. And
So
now,
you mean they're paying you enough, but just not just not enough.
yeah. So if it's
They know
if
what
it
they're doing.
of 100%, we're receiving like 80%.
Yeah,
But
I think they know how to play the game. Yeah.
yeah, so now what's happened is now we have started receiving it. All the old stuff is still outstanding. Now we want them to go. We want them to leave, so we can essentially renovate the house. Now, obviously, if we issue the eviction notice, do these new rules will be impacted by those, or could we essentially bypass them if we do it early enough to get them out
So
sooner?
have they lived in that property for more than 4 months?
Yes.
Then you can serve Section 21, which is the easier route to evict. It's still a pain in the
Yep.
ass, but it's a lot easier than Section 8.
Okay.
So as long as where is my 1 second, Darren? Where is my presentation gone on Canva? Here we go. As long as I'll share my screen, because this is the section 21 trap, and the golden deadline, as I've called it. This is key.
Okay.
So as long as they've lived in for 4 months, you can serve the section 21 on the 30th of April as the last date.
30th of April.
Yeah.
Okay.
But before you serve it, Darren, we can probably talk about this more on our call next upcoming. We will need to make sure that you've got all the correct documents. You've given them how to rent guide, EPCs updated. There's lots of things that we need to check before we actually serve a section 21. If you don't serve it correctly, the court will rip it up and throw it out. So we need to make sure that we've got everything, and I'll help you with that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Tim.
Excellent. No worries, thanks.
Anybody else have a question, or I will happily read through some of the questions in the chat. If I find them, I have a tenant, and their agreement finishes this month. If they renew the contract, the new rules apply. All the old ones stay the same. So my understanding is that if you can get them on a contract, on a fixed contract, on an AST fixed contract, which is still legal, you could get them up for the full 12 months. But in terms of the eviction, I believe that the eviction side of things means that they will still be able, they can still leave within 2 months. No, I apologize. I've just completely confused myself. If you sign them up on a fixed contract now, yeah, you will have the fixed AST, and then the new, I can't remember what it's called. The new, it's not called AST replaced with new contract renters. Right. I don't know. It's not coming up, guys, but it's not called the AST contract anymore. That's being replaced. Here we go. It's going to be called Assured Periodic Tenancies, APTs, are going to replace ASTs. So yeah, if you sign them up before, you will get the fixed contract. Yeah, Julie just said APT. Does it cost? Holly, do you have a question?
Oh, yes. Hi, James.
Hi, Holly. You don't sound like a Holly.
Actually, she's my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can I help?
Actually, we are planning to open a property company. So if you could just advise us give us some points, which SIC code is the most suitable or the one?
You want to open it up for a limited company to invest in? I thought you meant like a property management company. You're opening a SPV, a limited company for investing in property.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and we can do that for free if that helps, or you can do it for £50 and pay yourself. But you'd have to know the SIC codes, which is like 68209. But if you go here, sorry, I don't know your name.
Smith.
Smith. If you go to jamespropertyclub.io and then you go to services tab and you click free limited company setup, we'll do it all for you. Our partners will.
Oh,
We can
sounds great. Yeah, we didn't know that.
So that will get you. They can also open up bank accounts as well, business bank accounts, because it's always important to keep personal income separate from your limited company expenses and
Also,
income.
would you be able to help for that?
Of course. Yep. And just remember that SPV, that limited company that you set up, must only have property related income and expenses. Lenders, banks and lenders don't want to see they don't want to see other trading activity. So if you're a car mechanic or work in a shop or whatever, they don't want to see any trading activity other than the property income. That's why it's called an SPV, by the way, special purpose vehicle for property investing. So yeah, we can help you with that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and also basically we are struggling how to buy a property. That's what we wanted to get more help from yourself. How to buy the property and how we get into this as a full time.
Well, what I would say, Smith, is if you go to this website here, jamespropertyuniversity.io. If you go here on my screen, and if you go to this little green button here in the bottom right corner, there'll be a WhatsApp chat, either on mobile or desktop, and it'll go straight to the JPU team. Christina will be able to pick it up straight away for you, so we can help you.
I think we have sent a message already.
But you've not been replied to.
No.
Then I would need to have a word with Christina. I'm sure it's just an oversight. We'll fix it. But if you go to this WhatsApp, we'll pick it up for sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
and we can help you there. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and the last question, actually, if you wanted to register with a virtual address, that would be sufficient. Is there any issue like when it comes to the mortgage or buy to
No,
let?
no. That's a good question. Virtual address. So when you set up your limited company through our partners, you can use their registered office address, which I believe is based in London, and they will receive all of your post and they will send it to you with pictures and they'll send it to you. Or you could use a virtual office, and I think I don't know how cheap they are. You'll probably know £10, £20 a month, and they will also have a similar service. But in terms of lending, no, as long as that registered address is matching to the limited company accounts, and that's where you receive your post and everything, it's fine for sure. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Hi,
And it means
James.
that you don't have to put your personal address on company's house either, which is good.
Hi, James. I'm the one, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, because I was watching your Facebook, all the programs, and I'm really thank you so much for those advices and everything. We learn a lot of things from you. And my
Thank you, Holly.
question, we are living in London, and we can't come to the somewhere Hull or some area you show in some properties, so we can't come to get that. But we have money. How can I invest those properties?
So go to I was just telling your husband, I think. So if you go to the James Property University website and you speak to our team and you let them know that you've got this amount of capital to invest, you need help in these areas, we can either try and guide you if you've already got enough knowledge, or if not, we can put you on a fast track program, which we're releasing at the end of this month. So that might be something interesting where you work with me and my team directly. So that's another option as well that you might want to look at. But we'll help you out. We'll get you up and running somehow. We'll point you in the right direction, whether it's right for you this time or later. We'll try and help as best we can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay,
James.
that's brilliant. Thank you so much, James. It's very nice to talk to you.
And by the way, don't worry about properties being based in the north. If you live in London, I know London's very expensive. I live in Thailand now, and I never want to see my houses. And if you go down the let and forget social housing route, or even the HMO route, you'll never have to see them. You'll just have a letting agent and managing them. I can't think the last time I actually saw my properties sometime last year, and I don't have any intentions to go and see them either. So investing locally isn't important. Getting yields and getting a return on investment is more important. So we can help.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Hi,
guys.
James.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? You okay?
Very good. Very good. Nice to see you.
That's good. Nice to see you too. And first of all, I would really appreciate for all the information you give us. And then I've got a question. I have a two property, and I actually at the moment I rent it out. But I just wondering if the tenant decided to move out, and how can I would like to rent it for the housing social.
Okay.
Yeah, how can I do that? I have to fill the application form from the city council.
Yes, so there's loads of social housing providers out there, and also councils. Like I'm talking thousands. So I would probably target one. Either you've got your nationwide social housing providers. So you've got Mears and Serco. They are big, but they're operating nationwide. And then you've got your more local housing providers who would be able to, and local councils who may have a better understanding, maybe even a better need for your property. But you wouldn't be able to do that until obviously it was vacant. So you'd have to make sure that it was ready for them, because they won't take it on until it's vacant.
Okay, I've got it. I've got it. Thank you so much. That was my question. Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you.
Are you worried about anything? Why are you thinking about this strategy? What's your thinking behind this?
It's actually, I just decided. I just started this journey for 2 years ago. Actually, 1.5 years ago. And while this time I just do the two property, which is the first one I did my personal name. The second one I opened the company and did through the company name. Another question is, can I turn it, the first one, which is on my own name, to my company name? I have to pay the stamp duty again? Yes.
So
Okay.
what happens is when you have a property in your personal name and you want to move that into a limited company, HMRC treats it as a sale. So you're going to be hit with double tax. The reason being, when you buy that property from yourself, you have to pay stamp duty as the buyer. And when you sell that same property to yourself, you'll have to pay capital gains tax. Um, there is a way of doing it, but it's very difficult. And it's called a portfolio incorporation. And it's when you set up what's called a limited liability partnership, which an LLP. You move your personal property into the LLP and you run it as an LLP business for about 2 tax years, but you need 2 people here, either a spouse or a partner, because it's a partnership, limited liability partnership. After 2 or 3 tax years, you can then incorporate that property into a limited company in exchange for shares. So there's no buying of properties. You're actually buying a company, and therefore there are ways that you don't actually have to pay stamp duty or capital gains tax. But as I said, it's so complex. But if you go to the services, and to be honest, on 2 properties, I'm not sure of your chances, but it might just be worth reaching out to our partners by going to this link here,
Yeah.
and they'll get in touch to see. But if not, you've got options. You either leave the properties in your personal name now,
Yeah.
and if you're not quite into that higher rate tax bracket, then it's okay. It's fine because you get a 20% mortgage interest rate relief. So actually, Section 24 doesn't affect you too much.
Yeah.
So you could leave them, or if you are into the high rate tax bracket and the rental income isn't as good, then look at selling. And actually, Sean, who's listening to this webinar, he's one of my students. We're actually doing the same for him now. By the time he's got to the end of his year, he's getting like £600 to £800 a year profit, which is nothing. So
Yeah.
he's looking to sell that property now to then open up a limited company, use the proceeds from the sale, and then go again and buy another property in the limited
I've
company.
got it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you,
question.
James. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm aware of time and I want to be respectful for everyone's time, but I've got a few minutes before Kush gets back, so I can stay online. So does anyone have any more questions? Iona Henderson. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I actually also live in Thailand.
Whereabouts?
Yay! I'm Phuket.
Oh, busy. It's so busy there. You need to get to Samui. It's quiet.
But I don't have a job in Samui. I have a job here.
Right. That's the issue.
Yeah. I am going through the process of pulling the equity out of the house I own in the UK, and I've done that through your system.
Super.
My question is, how can I set up a meeting with someone to discuss like strategy and how I do this being an expat? And also, obviously, the mortgage rates I get are different because Thailand's
Yeah.
on red do not borrow.
Really?
So I
Oh, wow.
know where I'm going, but I don't
Yeah.
know where I'm going.
Yeah, I know what you. And what do you need help with? So is it because the rates that you've been quoted are too high, or is it about the next move? So once you refinance, you want to know what to go next onto?
I think it's about the next move. The rate I've been quoted is 4.97%.
What type of property is it? HMO, buy to let?
It's a buy to let mortgage, I think. Yes, yeah, it is.
Oh, is there an arrangement fee?
I feel like I should know the answers to this.
It's
I don't
okay.
know. I own the property in cash, and then I'm pulling about 150,000 out of it.
Okay, so it's worth 200.
230, I think.
230, and you're looking, so you'll have about 150 of capital to invest in the next one. That's good.
Yes. So
Once you refinance, or because it's unencumbered, so that there's no mortgage to pay off.
But I'll have to pay off the mortgage once I take the equity out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So have you got an existing mortgage on the property now, or is it not mortgaged?
Not mortgaged currently, going through the process of getting one.
Okay. So you'll just be drawing out 75% of the value of the property.
Yes. So my question is, like, how do I can I meet with someone from your team to be like, what do I do now? Kind of thing.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, come and join the fast track program. I'm telling you, we are literally buying properties and sourcing properties for our members who are joining fast track. So yeah, come and join. I'll have a look on the JPU website, and you'll be put into a group chat with me and my team. And we'll go through a strategy call first, find out what you've got, what you want, where you want to be, and then we'll go out and do the work. And you have a bit of paperwork to fill out and run the numbers with me together to make sure you're happy, and then we can progress on whatever strategy you choose for. So that's an option for sure.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. By the way, Bang Tao, are you in Bang Tao or Phuket Town?
No, so I'm more central. Do you know where Central is, the shopping mall?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So my school, I'm a teacher, so my school's basically near Central, and I live in like Planwa area.
Yeah. I used to live in Rawai, if you know the area. Rawai.
Yeah, no, I used to also live in Rawai.
All right. It's and Naihan Beach. That was the place that got hit by the tsunami, by the way.
Yes.
Because when you go down there, it says all like tsunami zone. So anyway, yeah, that's good. Okay, well, if you're in Samui, give me a message. We'll catch up.
Okay.
It'd be nice to see you. Cheers. Thanks, Iona. See you soon.
Hey, James.
Hey guys.
Time
Hi.
for one more?
Yep. Go for it, Daryl. Go for it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate all the information. Really, really informative. So, little background, we just moved to the UK in August last year, down to the Southwest. And after digesting some of your information, we quickly learned that the Southwest is not very profitable for property investment.
Yeah, I agree.
So, hearing that you'll be fast track happening later on this month, what is required to jump on that train?
Oh, I see. Good question. So go to jamespropertyuniversity.io, go into the WhatsApp and speak to my team. And then we'll have a look. We do application only because we usually want to have a minimum of £50,000 capital available. We won't take anyone on if they don't have that. So if you've got that and you're interested, then yeah, jump on and the team will help you out straight away. But yeah, and also just to give you an idea, Daryl, on property yields, I use a platform called, I'll share my screen now, called propertydata.co.uk. Not affiliated with them. I do like them a lot though. Evaluate, if you go to research and yield hotspots, you've got long let, and you'll know most of these are all beginning with the word north, so it kind of gives an insight into where to invest. And then they've got the HMO yields, which are slightly different. And I'm proud to say that HU5, which is where I invest, is number 2, and it used to be number 1. So yeah, this is kind of where the properties that we'll be showing you, because that's where our refurb team is. If you want to do a refurbishment, if you're looking to do a turnkey, it doesn't matter. But refurbishment wise, if you want to do BRR, we would point you in this direction. Of course, you're free to go any area, but we obviously know our stuff, so we will try and guide you as best we can. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'll shoot the message off. Thanks again.
Brilliant. Thanks, Daryl. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay, guys. Let's wrap up here. I'm sorry if I didn't get a chance to answer your question, but we're going to be doing these weekly. So I'm going to be coming on. In fact, if I just check the timetable, some of them are for JPU students only, but some of them are open. If we just look at the timetable for next week, if Christina, I'm not sure if we've updated it or not. Oh, next, it's an interesting one. We've got Chinese furniture and how we're going to source furniture from China to keep our refurb costs down, or just to open up our eyes a little bit. As you might know, me and Kush, we went to China last April, June, to the factories to see what they were doing. And since then, we realized that one of our JPU students is Chinese and does this as a business. So we're going to invite her on to do a bit of a chat. And she's usually in the meeting. So if you're here, Yuan Min, nice to see you. But if not, I'll see you on the next call. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you all on next week's masterclass. Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.